Hello, this is Priscilla with Scylla Travel coming at you from Charleston, South Carolina. And I help you live the dream through travel. So, glad to see you tonight. So, hope that you have had a pretty good day today. Thanksgiving is upon us. This week will be Thanksgiving. This year is almost gone. It's like so amazing that this year is almost gone. Um, we have 2021 to look forward to. So I know we didn't do any traveling in 2020, but 2021 is looking pretty good. So we're looking forward to a vaccine. We're looking forward to a lot of new things in 2021. So that being said, uh, just try to save those vacations. Let's plan for 2021. So today's topic is, who is your tribe? So let me do some housekeeping. If you're live, put in the comments #live. If you're on replay, put in the comments #replay. So let me check to see if I'm live. You know I do this every week because I'm a one-woman show, making sure that Facebook is showing this video live. Let's see. And am I live today? Is anybody out there? Let me check the comments to see if anybody's out there. Can everybody hear me? Let's see. Am I live? You know, Facebook made all these changes and it's driving me crazy because it takes you all over the place before you can find what you're looking for. So yes, I'm live. I can see that I'm live. So can everybody hear me? If you can't hear me, let me know. Mic check 1 2. Can you hear me? Let me see. Mic check 1 2. Can you hear me? Let me check on my device. As a matter of fact, let me check on my device. So come on here. Let's go back. Can you hear me? All right. I believe you can. I'm not hearing anybody complaining that they can't hear me. Can you hear me? There you go. That's how I do my double check. That's how we have to do it. So today's topic, like I said, is, who's your tribe? Are you intrigued to know what I'm talking about? For those of you who've been following me, you might have a clue about what I'm talking about. But hold on one second. Let me just get a little bit of water. I'm trying to drink more water, trying to be more healthy, so I can travel next year and be in good shape. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm Priscilla with Scylla Travel, and I'm an experiential travel agent or travel advisor. I do and put together personalized travel experiences for people who want to be immersed in the culture, be immersed and be engaged in whatever destination that they so desire to visit. That's what I do. I plan end-to-end travel. I personalize it for you. I do everything from cradle to grave, even planning your groups if you have a group trip coming up. So, like I said, who's your tribe? I help you live the dream through travel. Did I say that already? Okay, saying it again. Who is your tribe? Wouldn't you like to know? Yeah. So, question for you. Maybe are you at the cusp of your career? You know, maybe you're at the top of your career. You know, you've made it. You've gone through school. You got that good job. You're doing pretty well for yourself. Or maybe you've already made it, you know, thinking about retiring. Maybe you're retired already, right? So, or, you know, you might be any of those things, but have you ever wanted to trace your family's ancestry? And when I say trace your family's ancestry, I'm talking about people of African descent That would mean whether they live in the Caribbean, whether they live in America, whether they live in Great Britain, whether they live in Australia, any place that is outside the continent of Africa. Maybe you're first or second generation, second, third generation person of African descent. Or maybe you've just been, you're like, have been in the continent of where you live, like in the United States of America, maybe South America, maybe the Caribbean, for hundreds of years, and you don't really have that history. You're still a diasporan. And when I say diasporan, I mean people of African origin of the African diaspora. That means people who left either for reasons, economic reasons, or they left, like such in cases of the slave trade, they were taken away and they never came back. They went through the door of no return and never came back. And their generations have lived in the Americas, some in Britain too, but mostly the Americas for hundreds of years, at least 400 years. So you can't trace your ancestry back. But wouldn't you like to be able to trace your ancestry back to Africa? You know, we think of ourselves in the United States as Black Americans, because sometimes that term African American can be quite controversial to some because they can't really see the connection between themselves and Africa because we are so many generations removed. But when I say African American, or how about Afro American? That was a cool term back in the 70s that they used to use before African American became a thing, right? So when I say African American, or a person of African descent, that means a person whose ancestry originated, or a part of it originated in Africa, the continent of Africa, by which has 54 countries, by the way. Let's see, North America, China, India, Europe can all fit in the continent of Africa. So it's a very diverse place. It's an entire continent, the cradle of civilization, and there are many, many, many people and many, many, many people groups living there. So it's very hard for us to try to pinpoint where we might have come from, at least speaking from my perspective. Very hard to pinpoint that because all of those records and all those people were mixed up together. You know, once they were taken from the continent, they were thrown together. Their families, they were torn apart, you know, even before that, because they were captured as slaves. You know, they were like prisoners of war. You know, they were prisoners until they went through the door of no return. And that's a place in some places in West Africa, such as Senegal, such as Ghana, some other coastal countries. They have these places where they were kept before they were shipped to the New World. They left from West Africa. Now, many of those people were Central Africans, West Africans, and even some East Africans, which we don't hear a lot about. But because of the slave trade, they were captured, brought to West Africa, where they were transported to the Americas. So when I say people of African descent, when I say African Americans, I'm talking about Americans who have African descent. Okay. So Black is not really an ethnicity, it's a color. We identify with the term Black American because we have lost our cultural identity. So we don't know what ethnicity we are. So that's why we can only identify as Black Americans, right? So, but on the continent of Africa, there have been many people, Native Africans, who didn't even realize that they were Black until they left the continent because they consider themselves whatever ethnicity they are as what they are, you know? So let's say if a person is a Maasai person from Kenya, they're a Maasai. If a person is, let's see, in Nigeria, Yoruba, they're a Yoruba. If they're Edo, they're an Edo, right? That's an ethnicity or a cultural group or a clan, comes down to tribes, either or. We'll get into that later on as we go along down this journey. This is just the beginning of a journey. So, that being said, have you ever wanted to trace your family's ancestry? I certainly have. But how would you do it? This is what I did. This is my starting point. Some of you have already seen this story. This is my African heritage, or at least the beginning of it. And I took 2 DNA tests. I took one from Ancestry and I took 23andMe. I like 23andMe better because it actually broke it down a little bit more by region in Africa and had a lot of history of the various people groups in the region. So this is my ancestry. 22.4% Nigerian, 22.3% Ghanaian, Liberian, and Sierra Leonean, and 15.6% Senegambian and Guinean. Sorry about that, Guinean. So that's the beginning of my quest to learn what my ancestry was, my African ancestry. I used to look at on the internet, just look at people's pictures because everything's online. I remember one lunch break at work, a coworker and I were just looking to see who we look like. Who, look at that person's face. Well, your face looks, well, you got the same forehead or the same nose, but no, the skin color is different. No, the shape of the face is different. No, that kind of thing. I've known many people, African people who live here in the US, and I would look at them to see if I could see myself in their faces, to sort of see where I could fit in, since I knew so little about the continent. But there are plenty of people out there like that, like you, like me. We're going to correct that in 2021. So stick with me on this, right? So, like I said, I started my DNA journey with 23andMe. But here's a picture of my maternal great-great-grandmother, Easter. She was born a slave, right? That's as far back as my family can go. She's the oldest relative that any of the living children or descendants remember. I don't remember her because I was a baby, but I have living relatives, cousins, who remember her, okay? And she came to the Low Country, South Carolina area, Colleton County. She doesn't know where she came from. She was 7 years old. And because she just didn't know. So we can only deduce that, she was sold and, she was separated from her parents, but she lived through slavery. Okay. Now, this is the next step of my journey, African ancestry DNA. Now, this is a test that actually, and it only, mind you, does DNA heritage and tracing for people of African descent. They don't do any other comparisons for other regions of the world. So like I only showed you the 3 top regions of my DNA. There are other regions, a small percentage, I think 6% European, Britain actually. There were some other smaller regions, Asia, surprisingly, Native American. I've got trace DNA to some other people groups, but there was a really interesting trace element that I found in my DNA that I was like 0.3% hunter-gatherer. That's the Khoi people, or the Khoisan people in the southern part of Africa. So I'm like, yeah, indigenous. That's me. So African ancestry, that is where the next part of the journey goes. So I ordered the test. I will be getting the test sometime. I will be keeping you in the loop on this test because this will actually be able to trace me to a people group, a tribe. There are a lot of stars who've taken this test. And they've been able to trace their roots to actual people. But one thing on a side note, for 23andMe, I actually traced my heritage to an actual person, a living person in Nigeria, in the Calabar, in Port Harcourt. That is on the coastal region of Nigeria. So that I'm actually, through 23andMe, I actually connected with a flesh and blood relative. So next step, ancestry DNA. Now, after all that, what we're going to do is I'm planning a trip to Ghana. Hello, Nicole. Nice to have you. Okay, I'm going to do some little housekeeping again. Let me just take a break. For those of you who just came on, my name is Priscilla with Silla Travel. I am an experiential travel advisor specializing in Africa, Caribbean, and the Americas. So I help you live the dream through travel. So this segment, this point in time that I'm living in, that we're living in right now, the emphasis is a lot on African American identity. I shouldn't just say African American, but African identity, because we actually have a lot of diasporans. That means people, we're those of us who are descended from slaves or the slave trade, they're called classic diasporans, right? Then you've got another group of diasporans where there may be second or third generation Africans who've maybe their parents traveled to the US or England or wherever for work or school. So those are, that's another group of diasporans. But we have people who are actually moving back to Africa because Africa is actually beginning to grow, and Ghana is one of those countries, which our trip is going to be to next year, that is experiencing a lot of growth. In 2019, they experienced, I believe they were like they had the third highest growth in the entire world. So Ghana is a place to keep your eye on. It's an up and coming place. So we have a lot of African American stars. I believe it was Steve Harvey. Many stars have gone there for the year of return in 2019. So next, Ghana. As you can see, this is just like a pullout, a cutout of Ghana. See how small that is? That's in West Africa compared to the entire continent of Africa. Do you see that? Ghana's a teeny tiny little window in the entire continent. That's how large the continent of Africa is. So that's where next year's heritage trip is. So, little backstory, Ghana 2019, year of return. That is when they had a huge ceremony where a lot of stars went. I believe Jay-Z and Beyonce went. I know Steve Harvey went. I believe T.I. went. There were a lot of stars who went there for this huge ceremony that they had, opening and welcoming. They were marking 400 years of slavery, or 400 years from the point in time when the first African person left the continent of Africa and stepped foot in the United States of America in Jamestown, Virginia. So that was like the year of return. They're saying, come back home. They're saying, we want you to come back home. All right. So that was the year of return. It was a huge celebration. It was huge. So 2020, this year was supposed to be beyond the return. 2020 was supposed to be, but because of coronavirus, now beyond the return is 2021. So they're picking up where they left off, and they are really welcoming African Americans, Caribbean people of Caribbean heritage to come back. You know, I know there's some work they're doing with the Bahamas, I believe. The Bahamas and Barbados, they've got something going on, some program going on with those two countries where they're establishing trade and establishing relations, I guess, where people can come back and visit the country of Ghana. The country of Ghana is establishing itself as a major power when it comes to culture, when it comes to heritage, tourism, basically. So, year of return 2021. Next year is beyond the return. So, experience Ghana. The reason why Ghana is the place to go, not to mention or not to forget that it's part of my DNA, I think it's 22.2% Ghanaian. Okay, so experience Ghana. It's a land that's rich in culture. There's a stable democracy. It's an English-speaking country. So that's why Ghana. So I know a lot of people are just, concerned, and I understand. I have to think about that because we really don't know very much about Africa at all. We just have never learned that. So we have to take it upon ourselves to learn. If you want to know something, then find out from the horse's mouth. So during our trip, we'll be visiting Ghana and we'll be learning about the people and the country and their history from the people themselves. So, like I said, it's an English-speaking country, majority Christian, religion, 3 religions, majority Christian. Second, we have a small amount of Muslim, and then an even smaller amount of indigenous religions. But the country is majority Christian, and the Christian religion is interwoven into society. So that's something that you need to know in case that'll be a problem for you. Christianity is the main religion, and it is interwoven into society. Okay, so during our trip, we're going to start in Accra. So Accra is the capital of Ghana, and that is where the airport is. Kotoka, outside the capital, Kotoka Airport. They've really done wonders with their COVID tests and the arrivals, their process to in-process people because they reopened the borders. September 1st of this year. They closed down in March. They got their numbers down. They didn't reopen until September. They have done wonders with people entering into the country. To enter the country, you have to have a COVID test within 72 hours. 72 hours before you get on your plane, mind you. Now, the testing capabilities here in the U.S. is improving, I must say. In my state, South Carolina, we have testing. So our governor just said that we can go get a test before Thanksgiving, go ahead and do it. So testing has become more available, at least in my state. You need to check with your own. Accra is where we'll be starting the tours. Accra, like I said, is the capital of Ghana. And it's a sprawling city. So I know a lot of us might have some images about what we think Africa is like because we just don't know any better, or we just never heard, or we go by the things that we see or have seen in the movies, on TV. By the way, don't believe everything you see on TV. Go find out for yourself. Okay, so it's a sprawling city, and it's a growing city. There's lots of culture, there's lots of history, and there's like a scene there for like the young up-and-coming new entrepreneurs. Many of them are diasporans who have Americans, and their parents or grandparents are not from Ghana. They are classic diasporans. They have relocated there, started businesses, built houses. And then there are another group, those who may have their parents have been native, or maybe they were born there or they were born here, but their parents and grandparents were Ghanaian. They have gone back and they have started businesses, and they've had businesses here, but they went back home to build their country. So Ghana, Accra, capital of Ghana, sprawling city. So like I said, it's a metropolitan city. There's a lot going on. It's pretty modern. There are malls there. There are malls. There are hotels. There's the airport. There's more than one airport in Ghana. They have, of course, they're not on the same level as the United States, but they have the largest growing GDP, gross domestic product. Okay, so they have really grown. Next place, the Northern Region tours. Now, this is where we'll be visiting a lot of the natural assets that Ghana has to offer. So Ghana is a natural wonder. So even though the country is developing, excuse me, even though the country is developing, they are very focused on preserving their environment. They try to maintain that balance between people and nature. So these are places. This is a waterfall, a picture of the waterfalls. We'll be going up to the northern region, seeing these natural wonders. These are UNESCO heritage sites. UNESCO's that organization under, I believe, the United Nations, where they've compiled a world history of all of the countries and regions of the world, and they tell their story from their own perspective. So northern region, Kintampo Falls, they have some natural wonders there. We will be visiting there. That is one of the regions. And as we go along, I'll be talking about specifics about these places if you continue to follow me. Okay, Central Tours. This is actually some of the tourism assets that Ghana has preserved for diasporans who want to come back. And these are places where the slaves were kept. They were captured. The Africans were captured, and they were kept there in these dungeons, these castles that had dungeons. They weren't originally built for that, but they were built as trading posts by the Europeans. But then they were converted to house or keep the slaves there until they could transport them through the door of return to the Americas. So this is where the Central Tours are. The Central region also has beautiful beaches, so we'll be visiting that region. So keep in mind now, this place, when we go there, it can be quite an emotional experience, but it can also be cathartic at the same time. You get that closure. You get to see for yourself, not just guess or secondhand or just, you just really don't know until you go for yourself. See for yourself. We'll also be seeing some of the rivers. There are a lot of rivers in Ghana where the slaves were bathed before they were sent to the New World. Now, the Ashanti Kingdom. All right, the Ashanti Kingdom, the capital is Kumasi. And in the Ashanti Kingdom, there's actually a king. He's the Asantehene, right? And he is the High King. So I'll be talking a little bit more about them as we go along. You have the craft villages, and one of the largest open markets in Ghana is in Kumasi. So if you recognize that design, these are some of the Ashanti, these are the kente cloth that's made there. The Ashanti people there was a kingdom, and they did fight. They did resist the English for quite a few years. I believe they had about 5 or 6 wars before the English were able to subdue the Ashantis. And they had a king. And we'll be talking a little bit more about him later. The descendants of this king is still there in Kumasi. And the craft villages, this is where they make various items, where the cocoa butter. Cocoa butter is a major export. Ghana exports almost the most, I believe, cocoa butter in the world, as well as cocoa, the second largest exporter of cocoa in the world. Even though we associate chocolate and cocoa with let's see, Europe, some of these countries, Swiss chocolate, the actual cocoa comes from West Africa. So we'll be exploring the Ashanti Kingdom, also called the Asante. Now, we're also going to top it off with the safari tours. So we're going to be able to discover the nature, the pure beauty and nature of the country of Ghana when we go there. So you can't go to Africa without having a safari. So this is like a starter safari. Later on, maybe next year or later on, we'll be doing some safaris to the southern and central Africa. Some of those open plain sort of safaris, but right now in Ghana they have a safari. Ghana's climate is more of a it's on the equator, so it's warm year round and it's of a tropical climate. So we will be visiting. Thank you, Nicole. Nicole said, beautiful. Yes, I cannot wait. So we will be going on safari. Now, get on the VIP list. This is the trip. Experience Ghana, history, heritage, and wildlife safari tours. Get on the VIP list because space is limited. So when I'm done, I will put the link to my website in this post. If you are on Instagram, a link is in the bio. If you are on YouTube, a link will be in this video post. And on Facebook, whether you're in the Facebook group, whether you're on the Facebook page or my personal page or any place else that this video gets shared, the link will be within the post. Get on the list, the VIP list. And then I also have a Facebook group. I'll have the link to that as well. We will be going forward having some guests talk about Ghana, talk about Africa, talk about expectations of the upcoming trip. So join the Facebook group. Okay, get on the VIP list for the trip and join the Facebook group. So that's all I have on our trip. That's all I really have for this evening. I know I went a little bit longer, but I wanted to just, dig in a little bit because we got a couple things that's happening. You're going to be following me on my journey through Ancestry DNA to discover my exact tribe, my exact heritage in Africa. And second thing, you'll be learning more about our trip to Ghana, November of next year, not 2020, but 2021. Our trip to Ghana, next Thanksgiving, will be in Ghana. So until then, I'll be talking a lot more about the trip, breaking it down, the various regions, a lot of things you just didn't know, a lot of things we just take for granted. But there's so much to know about Africa, so much to know about our heritage. Nothing to be ashamed of. I'd like to know what tribe I come from. Wouldn't you? So, like I said, this is Priscilla with Silla Travel. And let me check to see if there are any comments. I don't see any comments. But remember, if you come back on this video and you view this later on, please hashtag replay. This is Priscilla with Silla Travel. And I'm signing off for today. And I hope that you have a good rest of your evening. And one more thing. Remember, live the dream.